Welcome everybody to another exciting episode of HomeKit Insider. You got me, your host as always, Andrew O'Hara. We got some fun stuff to talk about this week, including the new Nest 4th generation learning thermostat. But before we get into everything, this is just a little aside from my experience over the weekend. So I went to a wedding down in Columbus, and it was great. Wedding was great. All of that was fantastic. But the TVs in the hotel room had the Chromecast casting abilities. And it seems like a really good idea. And I have never tried this or experienced this before, despite all the hotels that I've stayed at. And I was like, oh, Apple's got its AirPlay thing coming, and this Google Cast one is already here. And many of the most popular streaming apps already have Google Chromecast casting built in. So I wonder how this works and how, Apple's option is going to compare to this. So we spun it up. So basically you go to the TV, you go down to like the casting settings. You first have to make sure you're on the hotel Wi-Fi, which is, of course, that makes sense. And then you scan a QR code or put in the little number that's on the screen. That's your pairing code, and you should be good to rock and roll and cast from Netflix, YouTube, HBO Max, all of those different apps. And it seems like it should be that easy. And I'm kind of excited to see this stuff kind of rolling out to hotels. But frankly, this was terrible. It was absolutely awful. And not only was this whole Chromecast thing completely bungled in implementation, the tech support staff from the hotel knew nothing about it. One of my best friends, he arrived a day early, and they wanted to be able to watch some Max videos up on their TV, and they're trying to cast, and it wouldn't work. It literally would never even get to the loading screen. So he's calling the tech support for the hotel, and they're like, sounds like it's a you problem, man, not a TV problem. And he spent over an hour doing this. So we get there, we're not trying to watch anything, but he comes to our hotel room to try our TV, and it got a little bit further, but going through more tech support hurdles. They're like, oh, to use Chromecast, you need to make sure your VPN is off, turn off your limit IP tracking settings, turn off all of these, the private IP address feature, basically all the security functions on your phone. They're telling you to turn off on the free hotel Wi-Fi to try to use Chromecast. And in the end, neither of us could still ever get this done. And it did give me pause to step back. I'm like, man, I cannot wait for Apple's AirPlay implementation to roll out to more hotels, because it would be so much easier just to see that lovely AirPlay logo there and to cast directly. I'm hoping without all of these problems. I mean, when all that is made by Apple, I feel like things like running a VPN or limit IP tracking and all these other privacy features will work. They will work just fine. And I can't wait to try that out one day. But it was just an interesting aside, because I'd never seen the Chromecast, and I'm very eager for AirPlay to finally arrive with hotels. So starting up in the news this week, there was some more Sonos information. This saga continues. I told you last week that Sonos was actually looking at re-releasing the old version of its app. And the idea would be to keep both of them on the App Store until the new version was completely fixed. But according to their CEO, who responded on Reddit, said that this is no longer a possibility. The issue is that since they've rolled out the new version of the app, they've been updating our products in the back end. They've been pushing out software updates to the other speakers in your home. And because of that, it's going to break compatibility with the old version of the app. So he in short said that if we introduced or reintroduced the old version of the app, it would create more problems than it would solve. He was really hoping this was going to be a stopgap measure to help out people and to get, some kind of a functionality delivered while they worked on that new app, but it's not going to happen. It's not going to work. So we're stuck with the current version of the app, the existing problems that it has, and Sonos is going to continue to iterate and fix those problems. Again, for anyone who's steadfast in the Apple Home, you may not notice all of these issues. A lot of them stem with accessibility issues in the app, a lot of things with audio and volume controls and all these other timers, sleep timers, A bunch of things that I personally have never used because I'm using my Sonos speakers as AirPlay receivers and they've worked perfect. Same thing with my sound bars, no issues there, but I know that that is not the experience that a vast majority of people are experiencing. So again, it's really actually nice and kind of refreshing to see the Sonos CEO taking such a hands-on approach with this, popping onto Reddit and answering questions openly and honestly, and talking about this was a real thing. The fact that they were considering relaunching an old version of that, he's like, yeah, we did think about that, we tried that, and I'm very disappointed that we're not going to be able to do it. It's kind of different than what you see from a lot of companies these days with their opaqueness. So I really do think they are trying to fix this the best that they can. Now, this isn't really news of the week, but Julian Joseph sent this over to me over on Twitter, and I just wanted to give it a little bit of a shout out for anyone who is interested in it. It's a remote cover for the Apple TV. They say they really like this. It's cheap. It's only like $13, and it gives you essentially an AirTag it's like a cover for your Apple TV remote and gives you a little spot for your AirTag on the back. It looks like it's basically silicone, and there is a little wrist strap that goes along with it. The whole thing gives it like a matte black appearance with a grippy underside, and then the bottom stick your AirTag in there, and they even have a little spot, like the AirTag doesn't completely get hidden behind it, so you can actually see if you had customized your AirTag. Like maybe you have different Apple TVs in your house and you could put like little like LR for living room, then BR for bedroom, and then that way you would know where all your TV remotes went. I don't know, that could be a possibility if you wanted to personalize your AirTags and then put them into these remotes, or just the little glyphs emojis that you can put on them. It's pretty cool. So this is fine. Honestly, I'm still sticking with my Nomad one. It's leather, it's really nice, and it's got this wonderful patina the more that I've used it, but it doesn't have the wrist strap, and it's definitely bulkier than something like this. But if anyone knows me, we've got dogs in this house. We've got 3 of them. We have 2 cats in this house. We have 2 bunnies in this house. Anything that has a silicone cover is immediately covered in hair. Immediately, like literally, it's in the package before you even open it. It's covered in hair. It's just that fast around this place. So something like this would never work for me. We recently got Harrison those Yodo boxes, and I'll talk about those in a future episode if anyone cares about them, because they're kind of like a smart accessory for kids, but they're very cool. It's a music player, and they have a cover for it that's silicone and it adds a little grippy handle, and it's cool because you can carry it around with that little handle. But oh my goodness, is that thing covered in hair right away. It's awful. It's terribly awful for the hair in this house. So I'm gonna stick away with anything that's a silicone cover for things, but it's a good price, $13. It's over on Amazon. We have the link in the show notes for anyone that is interested in it. Julian also shared the SwitchBot Air Circulator fan, which I had not seen. SwitchBot's got like these random awesome products that just kind of like slide under the radar, at least for me. So this is pretty cool too. It's basically a little fan, right? But it connects to the SwitchBot app, so you can control it and do all that stuff. Very cool. He says he's loving it. If anyone's interested in a circular fan, you got some SwitchBot products. Like I've got my hub on my, I beeped it. I don't know where I pressed a button necessarily, but I beeped it. Oh, they're on the front. Okay. I clearly don't use it enough. I use this as a display, so I stare at it, and I didn't know that it beeped, but it beeped when I pressed that button. Okay, so we had another write-in this week. This is from Michael Misowitz. Michael, it's from Michael. Thank you, Michael, for sending this over. But basically, they're having issues with their smart home accessories and HomePods. And I don't have a wonderful solution for Michael. So basically, this is why Michael says, I love HomePods and HomePod minis, or I have HomePods and HomePod minis throughout the house, and I like to play music from my phone to them. However, the HomePods seem to stay on 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi, and my phone was auto-connecting to 5 gigahertz and they won't communicate. So I need 2.4 gigahertz to support smart home devices like thermostats and doorbells. Most everything else is matter over thread in my home. Apple's only suggestion was to put my phone into 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi mode, but that is much slower. What do you do in your home? Well, I'll tell you, Michael, I somehow fortunately do not have an issue here. Not at all. It could be the router situation, which is what I've heard a few different times. Basically, routers can have like, say it's a tri-band router, you might have like two 5 gigahertz network and a single 2.4 gigahertz network. It'll use one of the 5 gigahertz as a wireless backhaul between your mesh nodes, and then it'll give you the 5 and the 2.4 to communicate with your devices. Most things will go to 5. Anything that is like smart home related, a lot of those are sticking to 2.4. So on my home, I have no issue at all. Right now, I am running, I want to say it's the Eero, the Wi-Fi 6 Eero. I'd love to upgrade to like the Wi-Fi 6E, preferably the Wi-Fi 7 if we get the rumored updates to the iPhone in a couple of weeks here. But I'm sticking with Wi-Fi 6 Eero routers, and with those, I've had no problems. Everything there, I don't have to do anything. It has the multiple network, but everything just plays nice. And I've never had any problems adding things on the 5 versus 2.4. Now, I have had problems in the past, like over at my parents' house. So I was trying to install one of the Hunter ceiling fans that had native HomeKit support built in. His old routers, they were pretty sure like, what was they, vintage Linksys routers, but they were older routers. Huge issue. These things would not connect to the 2.4. They just kept defaulting to 5 gigahertz. So what I've seen people do is you split out your networks. So on the router settings, you actually, instead of just kind of hiding them and they show as one network, you can split them into a 2.4 and a 5. You tell your phone to connect to the 5, and you tell all of your HomePods or anything else to connect to the 2.4. They're still all on the same network, so they should all communicate fine. But I've had people do that. To me, it's inelegant, and I don't like having to choose a 2.4 and a 5, and it's messy to me. So my dad eventually, he did upgrade to like some new, the Linksys Velop routers, and he no longer has an issue. So Michael, my only, like, aside from actually making a 2.4 and a 5 gigahertz network and forcing them to choose those bands or those networks themselves, is to possibly look at considering updating your router. I like the Eero. I like the Linksys. I've had good luck with the latest Netgear ones. Those speeds have been very impressive for me for the Wi-Fi 6 ones, or Wi-Fi 6E ones that I was testing. So there's a lot of good ones out there that shouldn't have these types of issues. I can't promise that that's what the problem is, but that would be my gut feeling surrounding this. So the last thing, I know we're only 12 minutes in, but the last thing I want to talk about is, of course, the Nest thermostat. And I have thoughts, including a saga of an installation. So before we get into it, let's take a break and thank our sponsor for the episode. You know them. We have talked about them before. It is Shopify. So Shopify, it is amazing. Whether you are buying, whether you are selling, it's got something for everyone. It is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your own online shop stage to first real life store stage, all the way to did we just hit a million order stage? Shopify is there to help you grow. Whether you're selling security systems, marketing memory modules, Shopify helps you sell everywhere, from their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. This is really cool. I had no idea they actually had the online and in-store stuff. This is amazing. It is so cool to have the in-store POS system, because you can have like the online store have ship to store orders, or like the in-store pickup orders. If you want to buy stuff online and pick up in store, it'll also manage your inventory in between them. So if you're selling online and people buy it in store, it can mark it as out of stock online. Just one inventory system for both platforms. Awesome. Shopify also helps turn your browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout, up to 36% better compared to other leading commerce platforms, and sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. Other things that I love about Shopify, including that very recognizable checkout system. So it's easy to integrate into your website, but your website is yours. It looks like yours. But if you have a new buyer, maybe they're not familiar with their brand, maybe they're not familiar with your website, and they want to know, especially with all these scams that are out there these days, that they can trust you. When they add those things to your cart and they go to that checkout process, they can recognize it as Shopify, which gives them that peace of mind that they know you are a recognized, trusted brand, and they have all these protections in place. Not only that, they can pay with their credit card information like usual, or they can use things like Google Pay, I believe PayPal, Apple Pay, all of these like other contactless, it's online, but they can use all these other methods of payment to check out for your store. It makes it easy to them, and when it's easy to the customer, they're more likely to complete that purchase. So I love all of that. Once they complete the order, it can get kicked over to the Shop app on their iPhone, where they can track it from like purchased it to shipping it to receiving it, and then they can leave you a review through the Shop app, which can also help them like discover more amazing brands like you. Shopify powers so many different websites across the globe. They actually power 10% of all e-commerce in the US, and it's the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, Brooklinen, Nomad, Moment, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's extensive help resources are there to support your success every step of the way. So this is what you can do. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/HomeKit. All lowercase. Go to shopify.com/HomeKit now to grow your business no matter what stage you are in. Shopify.com/HomeKit. Thank you, as always, to Shopify for sponsoring the episode. Okay, I'm gearing up for this, guys. The Nest. This is the first learning thermostat from Nest to add Matter support. There, of course, is the cheaper version of the Nest that has Matter, but why we are excited here is because this is like a Google product, a Nest product that is adding essentially native Apple Home support by way of Matter. This is their flagship product, and there's a lot of really cool things that go along with it. So, before we get into the actual product and what I love about it and why it's so cool, I have to tell you about this installation. Now, I have not installed a Nest in years. I had the OG one, but I have not installed anything in a while. So this is what happened to me. So first, I did the install, which also said wasn't compatible. We'll get to it. Okay, so I installed it. Wires all connected from my old thermostat. It was an old Ecobee thermostat, which worked brilliantly. And it turned on. It seemed like everything was good, but my iPhone couldn't find it. It just could not discover it on the network. So then it kept giving me this error that said could not make call, which I don't even understand. Like an API call? I'm not trying to phone call anyone. So it must be some sort of like API security issue. Is very opaque, and I had no idea what that meant. Now, I just kept doing this. The app was up to date. I'm like, okay, maybe this is a beta situation, right, folks? Like, I got the beta. So I get off my beta device, go to a non-beta iPhone in the current version of iOS 17, and the same thing. Could not make call. No idea what this means. So I go and dig up one of my Android devices. I got a Nothing Phone 2 sitting here. So I turn that on. I go download Google Home app and go through everything. And now it's giving me a different error with actual information, which truthfully is a little bit helpful. But now it says that the account that I'm using was a G Suite account because it has like my own domain. And apparently you have to have just like a regular person Google account, which I don't understand because it said it was trying to migrate my Nest information, but I didn't have a Nest account. I didn't even have this domain back then. So unrelated, I don't have a Nest account tied to any of this stuff. So I don't know why it was trying to, and I even said, well, there's an option during setup to migrate. And I said, no, I don't want to migrate anything. But on the Android phone, it's like, oh, could not migrate because it's a G Suite account. I'm like, why? And I'm like, I already have Google Home set up. Matter devices already running on my home. I've got the smart display, which I thought also was a Nest product. Like in that, I don't know. So it gave me that message. I'm like, okay, fine. I created a new Google account because again, like my whole point here is just to get it onto the network so I can activate Matter and add it to Apple Home. That would make me happy. So I create a new Google account and I do that one. And then I tried again on my iPhone. The account works. It got past that screen and I was able to like get to the setup process. But now it says unable to connect. It just keeps spinning. It finds a thermostat, shows the serial number, the last four of the serial number on the screen, and I select it, and then it like spins for like 5 minutes. And then fails. Doesn't say why, it just fails to connect. and I go to Android and I try it again. Now it says based on my wires that my thermostat or system is not compatible, which I also don't understand because it was listed on the website as compatible, and they even advertise the Nest Learning Thermostat 4 is like the most compatible of all their thermostats. So how it could not be compatible, I did not understand. So eventually I had to tell it I was a pro, bypass the pro pin code, and just set it up. So I said, it's already installed. I don't need you to help me. And it's like, okay, cool. Then I was able to find it on my network and supposedly it was added to the Google app. It shows the temperature on the thermostat, and I can now use it. I can like spin it and adjust the temperature in the house, and it's turning on. Everything seems great. But I go to the Google account on the Android phone and on my iPhone, and there's no thermostat. So I assume it's because I had chosen to install it as a pro. So they were like, oh, this isn't your account. You're just installing it for a person. Understandable, I guess, at this point. So I go through the setup process again on the Android phone, and it actually did work. It actually completely walked through, added to my Google Home account on my Android device. I go to my iPhone, refresh my Google Home app. There's the Nest thermostat. I can use it. I can control it. I can do everything that I want to do to it. I was good to go. But I'm sorry for that saga. I had to write down all these steps. My voice is going hoarse, which again, that wedding. But the fact that I had to go through all of those steps, and I feel like I tested a little bit more than your average person would. Maybe your average person wouldn't have a G Suite account to worry about, so maybe that's part of it. But even after I got past the account issue, it was still not being discovered on my iPhone, even non-beta iPhones. So there was just a nightmare of an install process here that I had never experienced before, and I did not care for it. So it was frustrating, but I got it installed. So the front of this looks gorgeous. Like, if I'm going to give them credit for something, it is how wonderful this thermostat looks. I loved it completely. It has this gorgeous, like, domed glass on the front. It sits out from the wall a little bit. I was worried I was going to, like, bump it because it does look like almost like a mushroom sticking out. But even my wife was like, it's fine. It's not that much. You're never going to bump into it. It's going to be good. And she was right, as she always is. So that wasn't a problem at all. But it looks wonderful. And this is they have this new Farsight display technology. So when you're far away from it and it detects you, it'll show one display. Then as you approach, it'll swap it and show a near display. So you can see it from far away and see some crucial information. And then as you get closer, it can give you more information, like granular information, like the weather outside, the humidity outside, air quality outside, all that kind of stuff. I actually think this worked really well. It looks very good. You have customization options for those displays. So there's like a clock, there's a digital clock, there's the target temperature and the existing temperature, all these different ones you can choose from. I'm hoping they add more. Then you can choose the different piece of information. There's 3 little nuggets of info you can do. Like I mentioned, like humidity, temperature, outside air quality, all of those things. So you can put all of that on there. This also has new like AI abilities. So there's the regular learning thermostat, which learns your habits based on how you adjust the thermostat. Well, this new one is using AI to better improve that. So doing things like, oh, it's humid outside. That means it's going to have a higher, like feels like temperature inside of the house. So I'm going to go ahead and cool it a little bit more than I usually would. Or if it's the winter time and there's a very sunny day, it's like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and not warm it as much and let the sun heat the house a little more. So I don't have to, like the AC doesn't have, or the heat doesn't have to do the work that it normally would. So there's a lot of cool stuff there. I don't know how much of it I've got to try in my limited time with it so far, but I do like that they're being smarter about it. I was very happy with the original learning system. So the fact that there is now improvements to that and using AI, I'm here for it. This new version has a new temperature sensor. So a second generation sensor. It just looks like a small little white puck type thing, like a little stone almost. But you can place this anywhere in your house. Then you can create different schedules based on that little puck. So if it is if you have multiple, right? You have one in the office, one in the living room, one in the bedroom. You can say heat the house to the temperature in the office during the day, then the living room at night, and then the bedroom in the night time, so evening and the night. So you can basically change the schedule to heating to certain rooms based on those temperature sensors. This works well enough, and I think it's a good way to make this thing a little bit smarter. So we have a new temperature sensor here. Other than that, a lot of it is similar from before. There's a few other small changes, like there's like the system monitoring ability. So if it detects like, hey, you're trying to heat your house, but your temperature is not changing, perhaps there's something going on with your HVAC system, and you can look into those things. So you're not expelling a bunch of energy trying to do stuff when it's not working. So I do like that they're able to kind of check in on that. But I don't know how many things it can detect. Like, could it detect that I have lower efficiency because I haven't swapped my air filter in a while and it's kind of clogged up? And it's able to say, hey, it's taking a lot longer than it normally does to cool your house. Maybe check your filter as a possibility. I don't know if it can do that or not, but I will keep testing it and see. Maybe. I hope I don't forget to change my filter. But if it happens, we'll find out if it lets me know. That brings us to Matter and HomeKit, which I think is what the most exciting part here is, before we'll do an Ecobee comparison. So it's very easy to get into Matter. I go into settings, turn that on, and it gives me a little QR code. I scan it on the Home app, I go through the whole setup process like you would for any other thermostat, and you're good to go. It just adds it onto your system, and you have it. I have it like pulled up on my computer now while we are recording, and you have your typical controls. So off, cool, heat, and auto are your modes. Then you can adjust the temperature. One important thing is that the temperature sensor does not show in Home or Matter. So that's a little bit of a bummer to me. I'd love to be able to have that as an additional temperature sensor for Apple Home, which you could then use to, create other automations with. So it's a little bare bones, but you can do what you'd expect. Adjust the temperature, use Siri, create automations, outside of like the Nest app and stuff, but it's great and it works very, very well. And I am thrilled to see a Nest learning thermostat in the Home app. So the biggest comparison that I want to make here is against the Ecobee, and there's a lot of pros and cons for both of them. For the looks, design, the UI, frankly, I give it all to Nest. Like, I love the look of it. I just think it's a better looking thermostat to me, and I like the interface. Like, it has such a good feel as you rotate it. I just love it. I really, really like it. And if it was just that, I would probably stick with the Nest thermostat indefinitely. I'd have no complaints about it with what functionality you can do. But unfortunately, Ecobee has pushed things further. So first off, their little sensors. There's actually a couple different types of sensors. There's your room sensors and then your door sensors. The room sensors, they can show in the Home app, and they show as like air quality, I believe. I don't want to say air quality, but I'm going to say at least like the temperature in the room and motion in the room. So I can put that in the living room, and then the thermostat will change based on where you are in your house. Not a preset schedule that you've done, but what actual room you're in, and it'll follow you to those rooms if you have it turned on. This is amazing, and it works really, really well. So that way you don't have to worry about like if you're going to bed early or late. If it knows you're in your bedroom, it's going to adjust the bedroom to your preferred temperature. I just think it's a very cool feature, and I'm really bummed that they don't have something like that for the Nest one. Not only the fact that it doesn't have motion at all or even shown in the Home app. It's just a big missing feature there for me. So I think these sensors, they look better on the Nest, but they work better over on the Ecobee. Aside from the sensor for like the rooms, there's the door and window sensors. These are angled, they go in your door, and they can actually tell you when they're open or closed. And then if it's open for too long, it can pause your HVAC system, so you're not heating or cooling the outside. Again, big new feature that I think is crucial to me. We have a sliding door, can get left open. This solves that problem of not leaving the HVAC going. You don't have to go and do it yourself manually or turn it back on when the door is closed. So I think this is awesome and fantastic. I love it. So we have those two sensors going on and those different functionalities. There's also the integrations with other Ecobee products. So if you have like the Ecobee doorbell, there is a Nest doorbell out there, but if you have the Ecobee doorbell, someone rings it, it can show on your Ecobee thermostat. It can show the picture there, you can talk to them, all of that. That's very cool. Then there's the Siri functionality. If you have a HomePod in your house, you can use the Ecobee as a Siri speaker. You can ask questions to it, get answers. It'll relay it to the HomePod, which will do all the back end stuff and give you your answer on your Ecobee thermostat. Not only that, but it can be used as an AirPlay speaker too. So like for me, I'll do podcasts and I'll play a podcast in the living room and then in the hallway via the Ecobee, and then in the bedroom. And as I'm like walking back and forth, folding clothes or something, I can continue to hear my story, or even cast from like your Apple TV. So if you're watching something and you walk away, you can still hear the dialogue going on as like you're cleaning through your house. It's a really neat feature. I really like it. Some of these are put behind paywalls, so that is the downside for it. For me, I have that because I do use like their subscription service for their doorbell. So I'm in that boat and I accept it, but I know not everyone wants to deal with that. But it is only some of the features, not all of them. So let me know what you guys think. I am just a huge fan of this thermostat. I did the full review up on Apple Insider. It's up on our YouTube channel. So I have like hands-on footage going through the installation process and all of that stuff. I think it looks great. I think it feels great. I think it works great. I just wish it had some little more features than Ecobee has. Like, it's got the AI and it's got a better design, but it doesn't have those other smart features that I've come to really rely on with Ecobee. So it's a little bit of toss-up. If you don't need those features, I can absolutely recommend the Nest Learning Thermostat 4. It is $279, so it's probably one of the most expensive smart home thermostats, but I don't know. I think it can be worth it. Let me know what you guys think if you want to check one out. Link for that as well as the reviews are in the show notes. So that does it for this week's episode. Thank you all for joining me. We have so much stuff coming up. Hopefully we'll get an Apple event announcement coming up soon. We can talk about any potential new smart home related announcements that could come from that event if that happens, but we'll keep you guys updated. So go ahead and do what you guys do best. Give me a 5, 10, 100-star rating on your podcast player of choice. Watch the YouTube version of this at youtube.com/HomeKit Insider. Otherwise, let me know over on Twitter if you have any questions, Andrew_OSU, or send me an email at Andrew at appleinsider.com. Otherwise, catch you in the next episode.